Okay, scholars, today we are working on our listen and respond for the week of September 30th. So today, if you are red or yellow, you will either be writing September 30th or October 1st. So this is the story we're going to read today. It's called Steve and Wesley and the Sea Monster. So go ahead and write your name on your paper. See, does that... There, that's better. Okay. So you would write your name. Today's date is either the 30th or the 1st. You're going to write the title, The Sea Monster. Remember, we capitalize each word, the first letter in each word for titles. All right, so let's get started. It says, as college-ready readers, we always use college-ready sentences. We always support our ideas with evidence from the text. Number 1, preview. Readers always collect clues before they get started reading. Look at the front and back covers of the book before you start reading or listening to the story and fill in the chart below. What do you think this book is going to be about? Why do you think this? I think this book will be about blank. I think this because blank. All right, let's look at the front. So I'm noticing Steve and Wesley. It looks like Steve is a little scared and Wesley's trying to talk to him. He doesn't look scared. In the background, I see the water and I see a sea monster. Interesting. Let's see what's on the back. Okay, it says there is something in the pond. Wesley thinks it's just a stick, but Steve thinks it may be something much scarier. Okay, so we're going to figure out what do we think this book is going to be about based off of what we have seen on the cover. So you're going to fill this in. I think this book will be about, what do you think? You write your answer right here. And I think this because I see it on the front cover, or I read it on the back cover. So those are the options you can have on the second answer. Because we haven't read the story yet, we don't really know anything other than what we see on the front or what we see on the back. Or you could also say something like, I know this about lakes. I know this about ponds. I know this about sea monsters. If you have your own knowledge in your brain, you can use that to answer this question. But we can't use any evidence from the story yet because we haven't read the story yet, right? All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. It says, now open the recording of the story in Google Classroom. Follow along in your text as you listen and press pause while you are responding. So what we're looking for before we get started, we want to know the characters and the setting. Readers know that understanding the characters and setting of a story can help them to better understand what is going on in the story. List the characters from the story. What do you know about them? Some inner traits and outer traits. Remember, inner traits are things that are on the inside. Do you see how it says inner? It's got the in on it and it's on the inside. It's things that you can only tell by what the character says and does. And then outer traits, outer, they're on the outside, you can see them. Is this a person? Is this an animal? Do they have red hair? Do they have green hair? Do they have blue eyes? Are they tall? Are they short? So those are the differences between inner and outer characteristics. All right, let's get started. We know we're looking for the characters and we know we're looking for the setting. Remember, the setting of the story is where the story takes place. This is always, always, always going to be a location or somewhere you can go. So if it's not somewhere you can go, then you need to check your answer because it's probably wrong. Setting is always, always, always going to be a place. You don't have to write this. This is just for me to help you. If you want to, you can, but you don't have to. All right, let's see what happens. Steve and Wesley were walking by the pond. Steve saw something in the water. Look, a sea monster. All right, so let's pause here. We already have two of our characters and we already have our setting. So Steve is a character and Wesley is a character. All right, so I know from this first page that they were walking together. I know that this is Steve and this is Wesley, right? So what is an outer trait of Steve? Well, he is a rat. I can look at him and see that he's a rat. So this is an outer trait. Then we go to this next page, and he says that this is a sea monster. So what is an inner trait that we could assume about Steve based off of what he just said? Well, it looks like he might be a little scared based off of how he's screaming and pointing, and he looks kind of frightened in the face. So maybe he's scared. He could also be kind of creative, because that could be, it looks like a lot of different things. I wouldn't have first jumped to sea monster, so he could be creative. So you only have to have 2. I'm just trying to give you an example so you see how to do this, because you're going to do this for Wesley. So based off of what you see for Wesley, give me an outer trait like we did here. And then these 2 are inner traits because they're based off of what his actions are. So you go ahead and come up with some for Wesley as we read the next part. That's just a stick floating in the water. He looks so calm and collected. He doesn't look scared at all. Look at how he's standing and his face. So what could we say about him? Go ahead and write your answer. And then I want you guys to come up with the setting. Remember, the setting of the story is where the story takes place. The setting of this story is at, where are they? Go ahead and fill that in, where they're at. Are you sure? I think sea monsters float too. I'm sure I can see leaves on it. I do not see leaves. I see horns. So we're going to pause right here, and we're going to make a prediction. A prediction is when readers guess what might happen next in the story. What do you think might happen next? So I'm going to write this part. You definitely need to have this first line on here. It needs to match mine. So what do you think might happen next? Blank has happened in the story, so something I think might happen next is blank. So what's happened in the story is that Steve thinks there is a sea monster in the pond. Okay, so you need to have this copied down. If you need to pause, rewind, back it up, whatever you need to do to get this written down, make sure you get it copied. I'm going to spell it out for you. Steve, S-T-E-V-E, thinks, T-H-I-N-K-S, there, T-H-E-R-E, is, I-S-A-C-S-E-A, monster, M-O-N-S-T-E-R, N-I-N, T-H-E, pond, P-O-N-D. So now what you're going to do is use your own knowledge and make a guess about what you think might happen next based off of what we wrote here. So it needs to match, it needs to fit in this sentence. So listen closely. Steve thinks there's a sea monster in the pond has happened in the story. So something I think might happen next is, so you're going to fill this in with what you think might happen next based off of what's happened here. So go ahead and do that now, and let's see if you are correct. So there's an example of Steve. He's making a mind movie just like we do when we visualize things. And he is imagining that this is what the sea monster looks like. It's horns and not leaves, right? So this is what he is using his mind movie to visualize the sea monster. And then here's Wesley, and he's doing the same thing. He's using his mind movie to visualize a stick with like leaves coming off of it instead of horns. So they're both making a mind movie about what they think it would look like. Are you sure? It cannot be a sea monster. It's too small. Maybe it's a little sea monster. Steve and Wesley sat by the pond and ate their lunch. I hope it's friendly. Who? The sea monster, of course. Steve, that's a stick. It cannot be a sea monster. Sea monsters live in the sea. This is a pond. I guess you are right. It must be a stick. Oh my goodness. Sure looks like a sea monster. Don't be silly. There he is eating lunch with the ducks and reading them a story. The end. Okay, so now we're ready to visualize. Just like Steve and Wesley made a mind movie, and Steve saw that sea monster and Wesley saw that stick, you are going to do the same thing. Visualize. Readers always think about how this story might look in their heads. Readers make a mind movie about what they are reading and see the story in their heads. What do you think this part of the story might look like? I'm imagining the part in the story where blank is happening. I'm imagining it looks like blank. 3 things to describe this are blank, blank, blank. Okay, so this first part, everybody's going to have the same exact thing because you're going to copy exactly what I write right here. I'm imagining the part in the story where the sea monster is snacking with the ducks. All right, so you're going to copy down what I have. You do not have to have the stars. That's just there to let you know that that's the part that you need to copy. So go ahead and copy this down. If you need to pause, rewind, whatever you need to do, I'm going to spell it out for you. The THECSEA, monster, MONSTER, is IS, snacking, SNACKING, with WITH, the THE, ducks, DUCKS. So now it says, I'm imagining the part in the story where the sea monster is snacking with the ducks is happening. I'm imagining it looks like, how does this look to you? This is where you come up with the one word to describe this. So what would you say? It looks silly. It looks funny. It looks scary. How does this look in your brain? Which one of these do you think it would be the best fit? So write one of these words to describe what this would look like to you. Then you're going to tell me what you see happening. So if you saw a sea monster snacking with the ducks, tell me something about this sea monster that you, like if you're walking down the street and you see it, I'm not there. You have to tell me what it looks like. So what would you say? Would you say it looks cool? How do you know it looks cool? What do you see that shows you that it's cool? Does it look fun? Does it look happy? What are some things that let you know something is fun and happy? So for example, if you were to say 3 things to describe this are, oh, they look happy. Well, you would get this wrong because I don't know what happy looks like. But if you said that the sea monster is smiling, you would get it right because I could see somebody smiling, right? So what I would say right here is a purple monster with horns, because that tells me what you see. It's a purple monster and he's got horns on his head, right? What are some other things you might see if somebody is snacking? What would they have with them? They would probably have some snacks. So you could write down snacks. And what else might you see? So you come up with this last one. You can have what I have here, but make sure that you come up with your own down here. Tell me what you see happening when they're snacking. Now we're ready to summarize because we've read the whole story and you want to give like the most important parts. Pretend like your friend asked you, you read this book, is it good? What's it about? You don't want to tell them the whole story, right? You want to give them just bits and pieces so that they kind of want to read it, but they don't know the whole ending and everything, right? So readers, think about the most important parts of a book. In your own words, give me a summary of the story you just listened to. So it says the story blank, and then it has in parentheses title of the story. That part right there that says title of the story is telling me what goes on this line. So this is telling me to write my title right here. So the story, The Sea Monster, talks about blank. Oh, this says characters. It's in parentheses. So I know that I need to write down the characters that are in this story. So the characters in the story are Steve and Wesley. So then now it's got these little beginning, middle, end, and they're on the back because it printed wrong for some reason. So we'll turn over here onto the back and then we'll fill in this chart. So in the beginning of the story, blank happens. After that, blank happens. And then the end of the story, blank happens. So in the beginning of this story, Steve and Wesley are walking at the pond. All right, so at the beginning of the story, Steve and Wesley are walking by the pond. After that, what happens? Is there a problem or anything? Do they have an argument? What's going on? What's important? At the end of the story, what happens? Did they resolve their problem? Are they still arguing about it? Did we find out what happened? So fill in these two, and then you'll be done for this week. After you finish this paper, go ahead and make sure that your word work is complete. Then you can move to either IXL, Lexia, or if you finished both of those activities, you may move to reading your book at the carpet.